On today's episode, head,
wall,
ouch. He's Kevin.
She's Robyn.
And we're the Schwobs. Head,
wall,
ouch.
All right, so let's break that down a little bit.
I guess this is my story, huh?
Well, that's what you keep telling me, so you tell it so well.
I do. I tell
Yes,
everything
you
so
do.
well.
And our friend will laugh up a storm when she sees it.
So, back when our son was 2, we were living in a house in Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine, a fellow author, good friend, a mentor, would come over once a week, once every other week, and we would sit and talk, and she'd look over my writing. And so she would look over my writing. Well, never fail, here comes my 2-year-old. He would get up on the couch,
Mm-hmm.
and he'd look at Jenny and then look at the wall and hit the wall with his head. And she would go, head, wall, ouch. And he would do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So she would repeat herself, and he would repeat the action, laughing. So,
Became a game.
oh yeah, big time.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time she would come over, somewhere during our mentoring session,
Mm-hmm.
she would stop to play this head, wall, ouch game to our son.
Yep.
Now, over the years, we've used it in very different manners.
Mm-hmm.
There are days when we look at our 17-year-old son and go to him, head, wall, ouch. Because he's actually stupidly hit his head against the wall
Mm-hmm.
in anger.
Yep.
Anyway, what does head,
Wall.
ouch, have to do with us and our relationship?
So you've heard us talk about my hip replacement. And after the hip replacement, I went into a very deep depression.
We've talked about that.
Mhm. And you felt that I didn't listen to you, that I wasn't hearing you. And
Oh, you mean I felt like you put a brick wall that I kept on hitting into?
Yeah, big time.
Newsflash.
Yeah,
You did.
You did.
So,
you did.
yeah. So, this goes back to a lot of different things we've been through.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I noticed after your hip replacement, or soon after, it was probably, I don't know.
Probably soon after I came home from rehab, I think.
Well, it was soon after you came home from your mother's, because
Or yeah.
we took you out of rehab and you went and lived with your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And you were ticked at me for putting you in rehab and overdosing.
Right.
But you kept telling me everything was fine. So there was that wall. It's like,
Yeah.
I know there's something wrong. Why aren't you talking to me?
Right.
And then on top of that, I started to notice that things weren't right with your memory.
Mm-hmm.
You would, I noticed it even before, because I remember we were still in the house. This is before we hit the apartment, so it was after your hip break, but before your
Before the hip replacement.
Before the replacement.
Mm-hmm.
And we're watching a show, one of our favorite shows. I don't remember what the show was, but it was
probably, I think it was Hawaii Five-0, if I'm not mistaken.
I was going to say it was either Hawaii Five-0 or NCIS, because those were
Something.
two
Yeah.
that we watched
It was a
religiously.
CBS show of some type.
Well, is there any other? Never mind.
Any
Um,
other
we're not
station?
going to go there.
No.
Anyway, the preview for the next week just finished,
Mm-hmm.
and you looked at me as the first commercial came on,
Right.
and said, "So is there a new one next week, or are they going to show a preview?"
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at you and I said, "They just did."
Mm-hmm. And I didn't remember that preview.
Deer in a headlight look from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then it was you misplacing things, which you never do,
Mm-hmm.
and you not remembering things. And I was just getting really frustrated because I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And when I attempted, and I do mean attempted, to talk to you about this, it's lucky I still have my head.
Mm-hmm. The grumpy old man came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was talking to my friend, and I was talking to, and the other thing, another reason I felt like I kept hitting a wall is the response I got from people who I shared my frustration with.
Mm-hmm.
They called you a typical male. Don't know if I would agree with that to this day. There's nothing typical about you or me.
Mm-hmm. No.
But I was like, no. He was, oh, all men forget. All men. No. You don't understand. This isn't all men. This is Kevin. Kevin remembered when we went on our first date. I do not. Kevin remembers
July 22nd of 99.
Kevin remembers the day he proposed.
July 11th, 2000. Mm-hmm.
I do not.
Yep.
Kevin remembers the day I kicked his. Oh no, never mind. Haven't done that yet. But he will. No. You know, all those dates that they say the girl remembers, ain't the case in this. I don't care. I need to remember one date. One. That's it. Actually, if you get technical, I need to remember 3.
This is true.
Our anniversary.
Yep.
Your birthday.
And
Kenny's birthday.
Yep. This is true.
But that's all I need to remember. I don't need to know when we had our first.
The rest you have a calendar for.
I don't need to know when I had my first date. I don't need to remember when we had our first kid. Doesn't bother me. Don't need.
Or the day that you announced that you were pregnant.
What day was that?
That was January 12th of 2005. I don't know why I remember that, but I just do.
Gee, can't imagine why.
You know.
So that gives you guys an idea of how his memory is or was.
And
what I've noticed with you throughout these last 10 years especially, your long-term memory is great.
Yeah.
Your short-term memory and your cognitive thinking, it's hard. And you did not want to take any responsibility for that. In fact, I had to almost threaten you to go see a doctor. And they did conclude that there are some issues, but they can't tell us what. It's not dementia. It's not this. It's not. Well, I'm glad it's not all that. Whatever. I don't care. I just wanted to be proved right. There's an issue. And so I felt like I was hitting a wall with that. I was hitting a wall with our relationship because you had put up a wall and pretended everything was fine when it really wasn't.
No, and at the time, I truly didn't think there was a problem. Looking back, I was clearly in denial of these things that were clearly an issue. But as far as there being a problem, I didn't think I was mad at anybody, at any circumstance. I I wasn't, but looking back, I was frustrated at the circumstance. I had lost 3 jobs. I broke my hip. Um, Everything was just going in a spiral. And I was angry as all get out, but I didn't know at the time that I was. And it wasn't until a guy that we saw in a counseling session, he looked straight at me and he says, "Who are you mad at?" And I said, "I'm not mad at anybody." He says, "Oh yeah, you are." And he says, "You're mad at God." And my initial thought was, no, I'm not. But
Well, you are the king of denial. I mean, that is how you were raised to a point, to push everything away, where I was raised to accept and push through it. And so it makes sense that you would be like, no, I'm not, you know. And the other thing is, you know, you have more of these blinders on to things,
right.
and you focus on one thing, and you didn't see the wall. You were too angry at. We were talking about this the other day because you got mad at something at a company, and you're like, "We're never using them again." I'm like, "Well, if they're the only company that will work, then we kind of have to." But they didn't tell us this, and they didn't tell us that, and blah blah blah. I'm like, well, you know. And it dawned on me as we were eating dinner, you like to hold on to your anger. And I want to state something here for a moment. Kevin's not an angry person. He doesn't lash out. Okay, so here's a typical fight, argument, passionate discussion between Kevin and I. This person yelling, screaming, hollering, screaming, hollering, screaming, hollering, hollering, screaming, yelling, screaming, hollering, never shutting up. This person, okay, Robyn, Robyn.
Are you?
Can I talk?
Yeah.
Robyn, okay?
And then generally, as I start to talk, she's not finished.
No, I'm never finished. So, what I dealt with for a while was you yelling at me, you angry. And we also found out that the medication you were taking for your seizure disorder had a symptom of mood swings.
The one that we changed to, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we found that out probably a few months into it, I think.
Yeah.
If I recall.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying something to the effect of, you either change the medication or I'm going to kill you. It's just that simple.
Oh, yeah, probably did, knowing me. The problem was the next medication wasn't much better.
No, and that one, I don't think it was it didn't affect, I forget what the side effect was. I don't think it was mood, but it didn't help either.
It didn't, no, and you were already upset. And so now you put a medication that enhances your moods, and you're going from here to here to here to here, all the way around.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to help you out, and I'm basically getting this.
Yeah.
And
you went from having a very even tempered, never got upset husband to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
All the time.
Is essentially what you had.
And you were not only, but here's the thing. I felt like the moment I got through one wall, another one would go up. And you were living this game of put up the wall. How fast can I put up a new one? How fast can I change this? Okay, I'm in a labyrinth. Oh, let me go this way. Oh, there's a wall. Oh, there's like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't win.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting no help, no compassion, no sympathy from anyone around me.
Mm-hmm.
They're all telling me that's just a guy and you just need to deal with it. I'm like, that is not who I married.
That's not my guy. Yeah.
That's not my guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I felt like, and at that point, my relationship with God wasn't in a great place.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm yelling at him too.
Yeah.
And he's sitting back and going, wall, head, ouch.
Yeah.
And you know, come to think about it, because you know I like to think things through,
Oh yeah.
and I like to kind of analyze. But that small little game
Mm-hmm.
of head, wall, ouch,
Mm-hmm.
kind of sums up a lot of our lives with God.
Mm.
He tells us it's going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
He basically tells us not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we still
kind of like that 5-year-old that you tell not to put your hand on the oven burner, and they have to test the theory anyway.
Well, that's just me. I test every theory.
Mm.
I don't take anyone's word for any. Hence the trouble I got into most of my teenage and younger years. And we won't get into that because I don't need anyone knowing about my troubles. But God was trying to teach me from hitting walls to back up and let him take down the wall.
Mm.
And that is not in my DNA personality.
No. You, the strong, independent woman that never needed any help and that sort of thing.
Still don't.
Yeah. And I think for me, now that I'm looking back, that was without a doubt a spiritual warfare time for us.
It was. God was trying to teach us to lean on him.
Mm-hmm.
And both of us, in our own way, in our own right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we had a right, but anyway, we were yelling and screaming.
Probably not. But...
It hasn't stopped me before from yelling. And, you know, I would talk to my sister, and my sister was so empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
And she would pray with me.
Right.
And she would tell me over and over, just give it to God. I don't want to give it to God. God's the reason we're in this mess.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
My favorite question to ask God, why? Let me tell you. Let me give you all a little bit of help here. Stop.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't answering you. He ain't gonna tell you. I still don't know the why to 90% of my questions. It's just the way it is.
Right.
Part of it is our own human sinful nature.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is our own stubborn free will. Part of it is a lesson that we're trying to start. Part of it is someone else's own stubborn free will.
Mm-hmm.
We were going through what we were going because neither one of us wanted to compromise. Neither one of us wanted to give in. Neither one of us wanted to admit the other was right, one was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of us wanted to deal with the issue.
No.
And the issue was you being mad, doing something that you didn't agree with.
Right.
And I did it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Which he should be used to.
But you know, the thing of it is that I was just clearly in a state that the depression just had a grip on me, and I wasn't looking at the entire picture.
Well, no, but I think that I'm not going to say that the depression didn't have a hold on you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that anger had a hold on you more than the depression did.
No doubt about it.
And like I said earlier, you have this tendency. Okay, So, one of the nicest men I've ever met is you. You are very loving, very supportive, very caring. You do, however, have a flaw. Yes, I know. It's so hard for you to understand and believe.
I've never had a flaw a day in my life.
Honey, you're just not perfect like me. That's all I have to say.
You know, if our pastor ever watches these,
we are in so much trouble.
My goodness.
Anyway, back to my point.
Watch our podcast specialist tag him in one of these.
Oh yeah,
that will probably happen.
Anyway, so your biggest flaw.
Only one?
Today.
Okay.
Because you know I have a list of your flaws.
Yes, you do.
Because I bring them out every time we get in an argument. The one thing, no. The sixth thing, no. The 20th thing. But
I love it when she says, you know, the one thing.
I say the one thing 5 times.
When we always, yeah. And then there's a list of what, 21 things?
Yeah. Yeah. With this one, you don't know how to let go of your anger. You don't get mad, as in showing it. You don't. I mean, I can count on one hand how many times you have yelled at me in an argument.
You got dates and times too?
Heck no.
Then you sure you can count them all on one hand?
Yeah, because it is very far in between that you raise your voice at me. I raise my voice at him on a regular basis when I'm mad. Whether I'm mad at him or not, he gets the grunt of it. I think 3 to 5 times in our 22 years of being married, can I recall, not dates and times, but can I recall you yelling at you, raising your voice? And basically, the only reason you
setting you in your place is what?
Will you stop interrupting me? Thank you. And that was to get me to shut up so you could talk. And it was basically, Robyn, stop. And those are the only words he would say. And then he would go straight down to your normal voice. The thing is, that doesn't mean you let go of your anger. You hold on to it through what you say about things. If someone does you wrong, you never want to use them again.
Right.
And I get that. But sometimes we don't get choices to do that. There's no second chance with you. I think the only person who's gotten a second, third, fifth, 20th, 7,000, 52, 100, yes. And that's it. No one else. You have your good friends and everything, but you hold on to that anger. And we deal with it differently. So let's talk about the beginning of our marriage for a moment. How Robyn holds on to her anger. Ready?
The wedding bliss.
No. Anytime Kevin and I would get in a fight at the beginning of our marriage, I had a checkoff list. And I would check off every time everything he did wrong since the beginning of our marriage in our arguments. And I would bring them up every single time we had an argument, whether we had dealt with them or not. We called it beating the cow till...
Beating the dead horse.
Yes, the very dead horse. You don't do that. You just are like, well, I don't like them, therefore I won't use them. You're mad, but you won't admit to it. And you give every reason why you shouldn't when there's reasons you should. And so that's the difference. And so you were doing that with your walls. And I was, instead of giving you space, instead of trying to give you time and trying to understand it from your side, neither one of us was understanding it from the other side. We were both dealing with our own things. Neither one of us were really bringing it to God.
No.
We were just dealing with it. And so we kept on hitting this invisible wall that left bruises.
Well, and even if you had given me space, I was at a place that I didn't want to deal with it regardless.
Well, yeah.
You could have given me all the space in the world, and I wouldn't have dealt with it because at the time I just did not want to deal with it. But
well, your ego was hurt. You're
huge.
And for lack of better words, your manhood.
Oh, yes, it was.
Well, why don't we get into that a little bit? Why do you think? I say think, but I think no. But why was for you? Why was it such an issue? Your manhood, your ego?
Well, I mean, I was in a job for 11 years that I did very successfully. And the only reason that I lost that job was that we were laid off. And let's see, I guess 2 months after my severance ended was when I got the job with Ryder. And it was a very similar job. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why I was having so much trouble doing this similar job. And I remember my boss came and said, your job is a claims assistant, and nobody should be assisting the claims assistant. And
ouch.
Yeah, and that wasn't, and I mean, I definitely took it hard, but she's 100% right. And the thing is that, I mean, I've never been a multitask type of guy to begin with. She has fun pointing that out to me. But this was clearly an issue because I was having trouble managing what I had to do during a day. And, they pointed out some things that I made mistakes on. I redid them and swore up and down that I did them right. I double checked, I triple checked, and, it looked fine to me, but it was still messed up. And I couldn't figure out why.
Can I ask a question right here? Wouldn't that have been a clue? I mean, for this normal person over here, anyway.
A normal person?
Normal person.
Normal. Okay.
I tried
probably.
That something was wrong.
Yeah. And I guess because I was in denial and still not facing head on these issues, it just didn't click.
Okay, I can understand that.
And it really, I guess it wasn't until I finally filed for disability that it really clicked. There was an issue.
You accepted it. That would be a no, boys and girls.
I didn't accept it, but reality, I think, finally hit.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. What's the difference between reality hitting and accepting? I mean, because we can accept things doesn't mean we have to like them.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Yeah.
But we accept that there's an issue. We accept there's a problem.
Yeah.
Whether we like that, well, that's a whole new ballgame in itself.
Right.
But we accept that there is an issue.
Yeah. And I guess the filing for the disability is what really sealed it. Because it made it surreal. It made it a real vital issue. But and it just, and I mean, things just kept, mistakes that I was making that I would not have made in the past is what I think really kind of opened my eyes finally to it.
So to sum it up, you think because of the fact that you couldn't do your job,
I couldn't do my job the way that I was used to doing it. Everything that used to be, I don't want to say easy, but I could do it without issues.
Non-confusing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was just all of a sudden I was questioning everything that I did.
So you're questioning everything.
Mm-hmm.
Things aren't coming to you easy,
Mm-hmm.
which in another episode
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk about you and failure. Um,
That'll be fun.
well, I mean, I say that in the way I say it
Mm-hmm.
because this this will be a great episode to talk about how we were raised too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And our different personalities. That will be
You
fun.
mean they're different?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you weren't succeeding,
Mm-hmm.
which got out. Okay, so
Well,
so let me give our viewers a little bit of tidbit about my husband.
uh-oh.
So, like
Look
I
out,
said,
folks,
we'll hit the failure issue
in another episode.
in another episode.
Mm-hmm.
But when Kevin thought he didn't succeed, or things weren't going the way he thought in his mind they should,
Mm-hmm.
he took out this thing. We called it the invisible bat.
Mm.
And he took the invisible bat and he would hit himself with the invisible bat until someone took it away.
It was my version of the home run derby.
But so getting back to the issue at hand, here you have your invisible bat out. You're beating yourself up.
Going full swing.
And you're believing you're not a man because you can't keep a job. And that you're not providing for your household. Right. And that therefore you're not doing your job. Mm-hmm. And that is what you were really mad at.
That, yeah. I was really having trouble with that. Yeah. And it just I think it would have been one thing if it was just one job, but I lost three back to back.
Yeah.
And I mean, you would think that losing one job would have been the wake up call, but it just.
They don't call you stubborn for nothing.
Yeah, slow.
Slow. That's even a better
slow
one.
Learner. Yeah.
Because I'm the stubborn one. You're just slow at learning.
Well, according to my brother-in-law, slow and steady does win the race.
Yeah, well, that's a whole new discussion for another day.
That's a whole new episode somewhere.
So if you have to give fellow bros,
mm-hmm.
who may be going through something similar to what you went through,
right?
To end out this episode, what advice would you give them as they deal with some of the same issues that you had dealt with?
Be open to what your wife is telling you.
All wives are cheering right now, by the way.
Oh, they are. And, it just, I had a lot of people saying you need to get on disability, but, when somebody brings something to you, especially somebody that's close to you, somebody who loves you dearly, you need to take it for what it's worth. They're doing it to help you, not to attack you. And I think for me at the time, I didn't take it as help.
Oh, no, you did not.
I was taking it as an attack.
You were.
And, that's because I just, again, I wasn't looking at the entire picture, but you need to look at the entire picture.
Mm-hmm.
You need to see where they're coming from. You need to have an open mind. And I didn't have an open mind at that point.
No, you do not. I will agree with that.
It's just, you've got to, sit back, take a breath, look at the entire picture, and then, you know, take action as to what you need to do. But the other thing that I would definitely encourage anybody going through